سلام میکنم به دوستان عزیزی که این ویدیو رو از کانال بنبست میبینن. ما در این ویدیو اگرچه محمد توضیح داد ولی ما توی این ویدیو با اولین بار با یک کسی یه غیر ایرانی صحبت میکنیم. غیر ایرانی که احتمالاً اگر که ما فقط ظاهر قضیه رو بدونیم فکر میکنیم که یعنی چی، برای چی باید با همچی آدمی صحبت بشه. آوراهام بورگ، حالا در تلفظ ییدیش آوروم یا آوراهام یا همون ابراهیم، فرزند یوسف بورگ که پدرش یک پزشک یهودی آلمانی بود و در سال 1939 فکر میکنم 1317 فکر کنم در همین سال مهاجرت کردن و رفتن به فلسطین، یا در واقع محلی که بعداً اسمش شد اسرائیل یا فلسطین هرچی. و پدر او در اون زمان رئیس آژانس بین‌المللی، آژانسی که کارش انتقال یهودی‌ها از تمام دنیا به اسرائیل بود و مسائلی که توی حوزه بین‌المللی یهودیت اتفاق می‌افتاد. اون چیزی که مشخصه اینه که پدر یوسف بورگ آدم بسیار مهمی بود توی به اصطلاح در واقع توی حکومت اسرائیل. سال 1990 و تو همین دهه 90 به اصطلاح فوت کرد و روزنامه لس آنجلس تایمز در موردش نوشت که یوسف بورگ در واقع بنیانگذار اسرائیل بود. یعنی در این حد اسم او مطرح. آوراهام بورگ هم از همون اول وارد سیاست شد. مدتی رئیس کنست بود. در یه دوره‌ای توی دورت انتقالی جانشین رئیس جمهور بود و بر چند دوره مثل پدرش که وزیر بود در کابینه‌های مختلف، او هم به اصطلاح تو کابینه‌های مختلف حضور داشت. آوراهام بورگ تقریباً همزمان با روی کار اومدن نتانیاهو رفت و در واقع از حکومت و دولت بیرون اومد. چند تا کتاب بسیار مهم نوشت که این کتاب‌هاش در واقع سوالات جدی هست که از سوی یک یهودی در درون خانواده مطرح میشه. یکی از کتاباش به اسم هولوکاست تمام شد، از روی آتش به اصطلاح خاکسترش برخیزیم، یا در واقع فکر میکنم اسم دیگری هم براش گذاشته بودم، فکر میکنم هیتلر مرد یا همچه چیزی. او بسیار نقطه نظر جدی داره در مقابل. به نظر من معتقدم که آوراهام بورگ از آدم‌هایی هست که به جنبه مذهبی یهودیت بیشتر اهمیت میده تا به جنبه‌های سیاسیش. او حتی معتقده، توی همین کتاب هولوکاست تمام شد در یک جایی می‌نویسه که هولوکاست، یا به قول تو گویش ییدیش شواه، هولوکاست در واقع برای خیلی از یهودی‌ها باید به جای اینکه بگیم که مثلا اول کلمه بود، باید بگیم اول هولوکاست بود و بعد، یا اول شواه بود و بعد دنیا دچار نابسامانی شد و اینها. یعنی او معتقده که برای خیلی از یهودیایی که حالا در واقع ما ممکنه بهشون بگیم یهودیای ارتدوکس، اینا به اصطلاح تفکر دینی یا مثلا یهودیت مسئله نیست، مسئله براشون قومیت و سیاست و او معتقده که اینها یهودیانی هستند که به اصطلاح یک حکومت غیر عقلانی رو در اسرائیل به وجود میارن، پیش میبرن و به با از طریق ادامه جنگ و مظلوم نمایی از طریق همون به اصطلاح مطرح کردن دائمی و هولوکاست و مسائلی از این طریق هم امکان یک زندگی به اصطلاح زندگی مشترک با اعراب رو در اون حوزه جغرافیایی این رو میگیرن. من اولین بار با آوراهام بورگ سال 2005 یا 2006 در کنفرانس به اصطلاح رنسانس دوم که به وسیله یکی از روشنفکرای به اصطلاح ایتالیایی در میلان برگزار میشد در هتل کارلسان رومئو، اونجا برای اولین بار با ایشون آشنا شدم. اتفاقا در همون باری که با ایشون آشنا شدم آدم‌های دیگری هم بودن، آدم‌های خیلی مهم دیگری هم بودن مثل نوال سعداوی که اون موقع هنوز خب انقلاب عربی یا انقلاب مصر نشده بود و او در فلوریدا زندگی میکرد، یا آدم‌های مثل فرناندو آرابال که از تنها یا آخرین بازمانده جنبش به اصطلاح ابزورد یا حالا ابزورد همین که در واقع از اون 3-4 نفر مثل لوئیس بونوئل یا سالوادور دالی و اینها بودن و در اونجا من با چند نفر ارتباط گرفتم و اتفاقا چند تا فیلم هم تهیه کردیم. با آوراهام بورگ مصاحبه کردم. یک موقع احمدی نژاد سر کار بود، یه مصاحبه تلویزیونی شد که از رادیو زمانه، سایت رادیو زمانه پخش شد. یه گفتگو با کارلوس فرانکی کردم. به کارلوس فرانکی به صورت در واقع دوست مشترک فیدل کاسترو و به صورت چه گوارا و بقیه آدم هایی که اونجا بودند و باشون ارتباط داشتیم. و اخیراً بعد از مطرح شدن مسائلی که بین ایران و اسرائیل عنوان شده، الان در واقع آوراهام بورگ یکی از مهمترین کسانی است که جنبش پیسنا رو در اسرائیل داره پیش میبره و جنبش‌های اعتراضی هستند. اینها به اصطلاح علیه نتانیاهو و خودش از کار سیاسی کشیده کنار و بیشتر به کار تجارت و کارهای اقتصادی مشغول. البته خب دونده ماراتون هم هست در سن 70 سالگی و من خیلی خوشحالم که تونستیم باشه گفتگویی بکنیم. از صنم قیایی که مطلع صحبت من ترجمه کرد تشکر میکنم و از محمد منظرپور است. ببینید.
It is an absolute honor and a privilege to basically start our English interviews with someone of your status as an intellectual and as a social activist. So if you're ready, we're going to start.
Perfectly so.
سوال اولم اینه که بعد از سالها
So why did you step away from politics? Is it even possible to step away in politics in a country like Israel?
میشه از سیاست کنار گرفت؟
The question is, in a situation like this, why to stay in politics? Okay, a politics of a state that became, I will say, corrupt by greed, corrupt by ideology, corrupt by religion, and corrupt by personalities. It is not a place for social or national change. The change should start some other place, outside of the barracks, outside of the barricades, outside of the formal political system. First, by creating a new ideological and political paradigm, then to galvanize political activism, then to build institutions, then to replace them once and for good. So this is what I'm doing.
You mentioned that you have focused on grassroots organization and mobilization in a sense. My question is, don't you think that because of the changed demography of Israel, basically a permanent right-wing majority in the Knesset and subsequently a right-wing government is pretty much guaranteed for the foreseeable future?
Muhammad, first, from my experience in life, it's very difficult, almost to the level of impossible, to drink from the half-empty part of the glass. I try to drink half-empty glass, no liquid there. So I always go to the half-full one. Okay, they can be as right-wing as they want. They can be as many people as they want. Here is my T-shirt, okay? That's it. This is my faith. This is my belief. Today I'm alone. Tomorrow we shall be two. The day after tomorrow we shall be a majority. At least in Jewish thinking, at least in my political activism philosophy, the minority position of today, when the pendulum will come back, will be the cornerstone of the majority strategy of tomorrow. So my role today is not to say, oh, there are too many, oh, there is no chance, oh, there is no way. No. My role today is to develop the philosophy, the paradigm, the institutions, and the political activism that if and when the time will be right, we shall be ready. So I'm writing books that's about philosophy. I'm a partner and a very, I would say, centric player in establishing a first ever party in Israel, which is called All of Its Citizens, which is a party of total equality between Jews and Arabs in Israel. Not a Jewish party with an Arab fig leaf, and not an Arab party with a Jewish fig leaf, not even an Iranian parliament with one Jewish fig leaf, okay? This is simply total equality. Shall we win the majority of the first elections we are going to run? I'm not at all sure. But is it a foot at the door to say, hey, you cannot lock it because we are here? And we push a different discourse of true democracy, of true equality, that will begin small within the Israeli liberal left, and then later into the central of the Israeli society, then to the midst of the Israeli and Palestinian cultures, and then to the rest of the region. So I never give up.
Well, that is a very noble approach to it.
It's not noble, it's basic. How can one be a pessimist? It's so unrewarding. I'll tell you something. What's the difference between the optimist and the pessimist, Muhammad, okay? A pessimist, all his life long passing, being sad and critical and upset and whatever. At the very last day of his life, came to him somebody and proved him he was wrong. And he said, oh gosh, I wasted my life. The optimist, all his life long, he's happy, he trusts, he hopes, he works towards something better. Then in the very last day came somebody and said, hey, Avram, you're wrong. He said, okay, one day.
به طور طبیعی به نظر من
In my opinion, Iran and Israel do not naturally have conflicting interests. Instead, it is current political structure and leaders of these two countries that have create hostility. What do you think the future of Iran without Ayatollah Khamenei and Israel without Mr. Netanyahu would look like? So what kind of relationship might these two countries have in such a scenario?
خواهد بود و این دو تا کشور چه رابطه‌ای رو در اون وضعیت خواهند داشت.
To imagine Israel without Netanyahu is a kind of a promised land, is a kind of a biblical promise and a dream. So if you have the same intensity and emotions and in aspirations, So we have two very hopeful people. I don't really know, and I don't have the knowledge enough in order to understand the inner fabric and the DNA of the Iranian society. But let's assume we are now at a day in which both societies are liberated from the current political system. The first thing is a warning. I mean, redemption is not happening overnight. Redemption from political atrocities and political tyrannies takes time, because there were generations who were born into this situation. I mean, in Iran, it is since 77, 78, which is almost half a century already. And in Israel, it's the last couple of decades. So it will take a time in order to introduce a new political paradigm and political psychology into the equations. First, each and every society by its own, for Israel to get over the, what we call the Bibism, the Netanyahuism, and for the Iranians to get over of the revolutionary, how will I put it nicely, from the revolutionary corruption. Having said that there is a fundamental question, and this is, what is the real need and the real motivation of both people? And here I will say, no doubt, that in the last couple of thousands of years, there is no real animosity between the Iranian/Persian people and the Jewish one. It is something which is, relatively speaking, recent one. It started with the corrupt cooperation between Pahlavis and the Israeli establishment, which was used in order to torture and to harass and to persecute the Shiites and the religious establishment of it. I do hope that people who replace despair and tyranny with hope and trust will understand that the two non-Arabic elements in the Middle East are three. There are the Turks, the Israelis, Hebrides, and the Persians, Iranians, that the two out of the three, us and you, will be able to cooperate for the betterment of the entire region. I believe it's possible. I believe that post-trauma relationship might bear good trauma-free fruits.
My second question is, do you think that intellectuals in Iran and Israel could initiate some sort of people-to-people diplomacy or discourse which could overcome the hostility which is being spread by the governments?
I see two layers to your question. We always speak about the peace between Israel and Egypt, Israel and the Jordanian as government-to-government peace rather than people-to-people peace. I hope, and I have a feeling it might be right, that the animosity between Israel and Iran is government-to-government animosity, not necessarily people-to-people. Not just because of the social fabric of the Iranian society, which not all of it is revolutionary, not all of it is Shiite, not all of it supports the regime. Just look at the percentage of the participation in the last elections. Just this as an indication of something, okay? Or the last couple of elections, not necessarily just the last one. I believe that it's not just, it is the role of intellectual to frame the discourse, but it is much larger the role of social activists to fill it up. The intellectuals might come and say, for example, what is the nature of the interreligious dialogue or discourse between Shiite dogma and paradigm and the Jewish one? Is it of animosity? Not necessarily. What is the role, for the first time ever, of a Shia-run state in a modern world? It's a serious discussion that Khomeini did not give a good answer to it. His coalition was a strange coalition of liberals and fundamentalists. Then liberals exiled and perished and disappeared. But the whole notion of what is the first ever Shiite regime in a modern life was never seriously discussed. In a way, the same thing never happened in Judaism. The state of Israel, as much as it is in the favorite daughter or son, child, offspring of the Jewish people, the theological thinking of a people of exile, of people of minority, of people of persecution, becoming a majority and becoming the persecutors was never theologically discussed. So I see here gardens, fields of grazing together to explore some of the things. And this is beside something that psychologically is so critical. We do not talk about 100 years old political entities. We talk about 5,000 years old civilizations. We must have a longer patience, perspectives, respect. Not the entire Jewish history, neither the entire Persian Iranian history is the last 40 years. It's longer than this. It's wider than that. It's deeper than them all. Let's go there. So we need the intellectual to frame the field. Then the political and social activists to move in and fill it up and flesh it up with activism.
بگم من راه حلای معقول.
So I believe that reasonable solution within the current political system of Iran and Israel would destabilize their government. What is your opinion on this?
کشور خواهند شد. تو در این مورد چه نظری داری؟ چی فکر میکنی؟
I'm afraid that the mechanism to replace governments are different in your place and in my place. In my place, as much as we have democracy, a shortage of democracy, or democracy in democracy in deficit, it's still a democratic system. The only way I see that the regime or the government will be replaced in Israel will be by free elections. As for now, I don't see any other options, any other alternative. Since I do not really understand and do not really know the details of the current Iranian democratic system, I'm not at all sure that it is possible through the political procedure to replace the government. I mean, if you have a system in which the supreme leader with the leadership decide who is the candidate, and as much as the current president is considered a bit more moderate than the previous ones, and a bit more conciliatory vis-a-vis A, the economic needs, and B, Western orientation, it is still, and he is still an outcome of what is perceived by me as a non-democratic and illiberal process. So in order to replace somebody in Iran, it takes different energies than to replace somebody in Israel. And I believe that in Israel, we shall see a replacement of the government sooner than the one of Pezeshkian in Iran. Yet, I'm not at all sure that the one who will succeed, Benjamin Netanyahu, will be much better than him. So we have a democratic system that can replace the prime minister, not at all sure that the people's vote and the people's selection and the people appointment will be a one I will celebrate.
The Netanyahu government has formed a kind of alliance with Iran's crown prince in exile, Reza Pahlavi, and is mobilizing Mr. Pahlavi's followers in exile in support of his regional policies, Netanyahu's regional policies. Do you think this policy is beneficial for healing between the two people?
You should tell me, you should know better than I do. What is the real place of the Pahlawis in the life of the Iranians? I'm not at all sure it's positive only. Let's put it mildly, okay? I mean, are we really for the Pahlawis? We are still with the Mossadegh, okay? I mean, I'm still at the 50s and I'm still at a century ago people's constitution in Iran. I'm in a different place. The Pahlawis look to me. Sorry, I hope I don't insult anybody, and correct me if I'm wrong, not at the most credible and corrupt regime ever in the history of Iran, okay? Now, this is you to tell me, who am I? What do I understand? I read, and I don't even read Farsi. I read translated literature. I read essays that were written about but not by. So I'm limited. I'm ignorant. I can tell you a lot about my government. The current government has a stupid policy to say the enemy of my enemy is immediately my friend. And this is awful. All of a sudden, Israel gives the halal certificate, the kosher certificate, to all the corrupt, fascist, neo-Nazi, racist regimes and individuals all over the world. I mean, we're the best friend of Orban in Hungary, up until yesterday with Putin. Trump is all of a sudden a new prophet in the Bible. And I'm not at all sure that the offspring, the Pahlavi man, Prince of Crown, what is he? The king, what is he?
He's the crown prince. If the regime had continued, he would have become king.
So the would have become king that will never become king, okay, falls in my eyes to the category of the bad guys we make friends with, rather than do a real effort to become friends of the good guys.